Welcome to the Crafty Mini. We're going to do another painting tutorial, this time for Marvel's greatest superhero, which is Howard the Duck, of course. Now, a few things just get out from the start. So I've bought this out of my own money. This is a commission piece for someone, so by the time this video goes out, you've got the piece. So Felix, I hope you liked it, mate. Absolute joy to paint, and great idea for this character. I bought this from PHALANXPRINTINGUK on Etsy. Now, I reached out to the actual seller and explained I'd like it a bit bigger, like 75mm scale, and he was like, "Yep, absolutely fine, we can do it." So he's basically enlarged it and printed it for me. The details are fantastic on this print. I've bought from Phalanx in the past, and I get a lot of stuff from there. So anyone who's looking for some good 3D prints, he's got a massive selection, so go and check him out. And really good priced as well. There's little to no cleanup on these. And what we're going to basically be doing in this video is going through how I actually paint the miniature, and I'll explain things like the layering and all that sort of stuff. So at the start, all of the red areas are actually getting a base coat of cavalry brown, which might seem a bit counterintuitive, but it's actually going to give a deeper red when we come to add the layers on afterwards, which you'll see. So the miniature has basically been given a flat grey base coat, no zenithal highlighting or anything. And I've just basically base coated the entirety of the red in cavalry brown. Now, yellow ochre for the beak and the feet initially as well. And when we go further on in the video and you see the steps, you'll see I'm going to follow the same pattern with the layers, just with different colours. So at the moment I'm just blocking everything out. Anyone who's a miniature painter, you'll know that yellow can be an absolute pain for coverage. I've got to say, Vallejo's yellow ochre, it goes on smooth. You might need a second thin coat, but that's it, and it just goes on. It's a brilliant paint. So I'm just going to get everything blocked out initially, and then we'll go from there. Right, so highlighting, really simple. I'll put some images up to help explain it a bit more. So my first coat is actually going to be a mix 1-to-1 of carmine red and cavalry brown, and this is going to go over that initial cavalry brown. All over, only minor recesses will be left, so things like just under the gun where there's a bit of shadow, I'm not going to bother painting that, and you'll see that I'm just feathering this on top of that initial layer, and this helps start to bring the red out, and I'll do this layer by layer. So what I'm going to do now is just put a little infographic up, it should pop up now, and this explains how the layering works. So that initial layer is there, that's the cavalry brown, or the yellow, or whatever colour it is you're doing on your miniature. The second layer, as you can see now, so that's the 1-to-1 mix that I've used, but you can see I don't quite cover everything. And then same again with the next layer, which will show up now. And you can see that, and what you're basically doing is you're leaving a tiny bit of the previous colour on show, and you're building up to where the brightest highlight would be. So like the creases on the actual trousers, the collar around the entirety of the back of the suit, and so forth. And you'll just keep adding and adding until eventually you get multiple layers, and you'll get a nice gradient that goes all the way through. Really simple, really easy. You can then even go on and do really thin glazes, which is where you water down your paint even more and put more on, and eventually those layers will build up. It does take time, but you get a really smooth transition of colour, and you don't get these sort of blocks. And it just comes, and you'll see at the end, it looks nice. It works. It's really simple. You can highlight everything you need to, so you can see like the part that I'm doing right now. So the back of his legs, where his sort of calf muscle will pop out, that's going to get an additional layer of red, just because that should pop out more, because that's where the light would catch. And this is all I'm doing. I'm going through layer by layer using that same method I've just shown. Really simple. So as mentioned, so this is now a 2-to-1 mix, so 1 part cavalry brown to 2 parts Vallejo carmine red, and this is so the red's just going to start creeping up, and you can see now I'm taking my time and I'm hitting very specific areas, so where the light would catch more. So the front of his trousers here, the seam, in between you can see there just under where his knee would be, there's a little bit of cavalry brown still showing because the light wouldn't fully catch it. And then I go around the model, same sort of thing. So any of the raised areas is going to get more of this mix, and then you're going to basically get a transition from the deep gradient of the brown right the way up to the bright red, and it just adds a bit of depth to the miniature. This is a very similar process to what I did on the Deadpool video, links above, and this will get multiple layers now each layer that I add a bit more red, until eventually I think I go from cavalry brown base coat, 1:1 mix, 1:2 mix, 1:3 mix, and then by the 4th layer it's just carmine red on the very extreme areas. And like I mentioned, you get this lovely gradient popping up, and it just makes the miniature pop and look a bit more realistic. Again, takes time, but it's worth it. Really simple technique. What you can do as well, so for a piece like this that's going to be on display, I really take my time. For something that I class as board game standard, what I'll do is base coat. So if this was the miniature, I'd just do a base coat of the red, wash it with brown sepia wash, and then go back in with the base coat again. It does the same thing, but you're basically skipping a few steps, so you won't get as much of a gradient, but again it makes the miniature pop. So just keep adding layers and keep going and keep going. As I say, it is very tedious and time consuming, but it does work. And the very, very extremes will be that bright red, which you'll see in a moment. And this is the final highlight, so this is where I'm just going in with carmine red, and again feathering it on. I'm not going right the way up to the previous layer, again leaving a bit of that darker shade there in the recess, and you can see now the red's starting to pop, starting to come out a bit more. Again, just take your time with this. It's a simple process, but you can see now the colours are starting to become really vibrant. And when you look up close, and we'll do the final images at the end of the video, you'll see there's a gradient there that goes up. And I'm doing these with really thin down coats, so I won't, like for example, just mix the paint and just put that on. So what I do is I add a bit of water, because if you thin your coats, you're thinning the pigments out, and ultimately you just get a better transition between the colours and the layers, and it just looks like a smoother blend rather than being really blocky. And you can see here now, so this seam on the back of his trousers, that really starts to pop because that's still got the darkest layers in. That calf muscle that I mentioned earlier, because the light's going to catch that more, so that looks a bit more vibrant. And same with like things like his bum cheeks here, and then when you get to see finally the collar and things like that on the top of the suit. Really, really simple. And this is just to show again the same process but up on the coat. So this is where the highest highlight will be. So if you imagine the light right above him, so this is where I want it to be its brightest. So you can see there, so I'm picking up the shoulder, and then the bottom part of the coat where it flows out, just blending it in. And again, it just gives that nice transition right the way through, and you can see there, so the arm that I've not actually done yet, holding the gun, you can see the difference in colour, where it's not had that final highlight. And if on the miniature, on the sculpt, if there's got anything like creases on, so there's a few here on the arm, concentrate on the highest areas of those, and that'll make it pop even more and give you a better transition through the colours. So at this point the suit's done. I've done one highlight on the beak at this point, but we'll go back to that in a moment anyway, because it's using the same methods as the red suit. Now I'm working on the gun. So it might be a bit hard to see on this because normally I base coat in black, but I'm trying a new way of doing metallics. As I'm still trying to learn how to do non-metallic metals, which might be a video in the future. So this is going to get 2 coats of plate mail metal by Army Painter. I just find it's a really nice vibrant silver. So the initial coat's just to get it on, and then it does need a second one just to make it pop a bit more. So take your time going around all the areas, you know, if you don't want to get it on the red or anywhere else that you've painted. But this goes on 2 thin coats, really simple, and then we'll go from there and we'll start adding washes and things just to make it pop, because there's a lot of detail on the gun, a lot of vertical lines and things. They're going to look cool when it's finished. Right, so the silver's done. Now this is going to seem a bit aggressive, but I've got a Seraphim sepia wash. I'll just pop on. It's one of the older ones, so I'm not sure if the newer GW wash will be as vibrant as this. So this gets put on in just blobbed areas around the gun, especially in those vertical lines, because I want them to make it look nice. And then what I actually use is a Vallejo Game Wash, it's called, and it's a blue. And then this gets put on and mixed in, and then you just start brushing this all over, and it gives this nice blued effect with the brown. If you've seen real guns, when the metal work on the gun is actually being what they call blued, it comes out very similar to that. So you're putting this on thick, mixing it around. You just got to trust the process on this. It does seem very strange. And then obviously there's areas here at the back where I add just the blue on its own, and then I'll feather this into the wet brown ink and get it to gradient and mix through. and it's something a bit different than just doing the old-fashioned paint it silver, black wash and done. But you keep going through, adding blobs to both the colours and mixing them together across the gun, and you get all these little variant gradients of colour that really make the gun pop. You get from areas where it mixes in with the dark brown, and you get like an off bluish colour, and then you see there I'm just blobbing more in, and this look again gets mixed in, and it really does work. It's a nice way of doing silver, and it makes it look a bit more dirty and a bit more used and sort of lived in, as it were. Right, so for all the white on the miniature, so we're actually going to start off with pale sand. Same principle as the red suits. You're starting off with a slightly darker colour, and you're going to add white to it. Also, I find pale sand covers a lot better than white initially, and you want the white to actually be the brightest point. Even though the feathers are white, you actually want the recesses to be slightly darker. So I'm going to go through and do all the hands, his head, neck and the shirt, and then they'll all get a progressively higher layer. So like we did with the red, so the first layer is just pale sand, second layer will be 1-to-1 pale sand with white, then it'll be 1 part pale sand, 2 parts white, and so on until I get to the desired amount of highlight that I want. And again, we're just picking up on the raised areas that are the most prominent and leaving a little bit of that base coating. So exactly the same as we've done with the red, same as we'll do with the yellow as well. And it's just picking it out and just making things pop. So he's tuft on the top of his head, the details around his eyes, they'll get the highest point of whites, where it would just be pure whites to make them stand out. Right, so this is where we're going to go up to so we've done the pale sand and a 1-to-1 mix. Now we're going to go to the highest highlights now on the face and the feathers, as mentioned. Also, you can see there the gun, comes out and it looks really grubby and used, which is the style that I want, and that brown and blue mix does work. So you can see here I'm just picking out the highest highlights, so around his face, because he's got this frown, the top of his beak, and then the feathers on top. And you'll see that I don't go all the way around. So the top is put, so the crown of his head, that will get the white highlight, because obviously that's closest to a fictional light source above him. But it just picks out all the details on his face, same with his fingers, and it just makes the miniature pop a bit more and show off detail. And again, like with the red, as we did at the start of the video, and as I've done with the beak, you're going to get these gradients of colour that go up, and it just makes the miniature pop. And you can see I'm just over brushing, just picking up the edges of the actual feathers, and it's a really simple technique. And with anything like this, it's going to take time and practice and things like that, and just persevere with it. You know, this is some of the video we'll be doing perhaps the week after this. I'm going to go into some of the things that annoy me with tutorials and things online, because I feel like it puts people in a trap where it doesn't look like the miniature I've just seen painted, and I followed all the steps and all this, and and it's something I personally want to address, because this takes a lot of time. I've been painting for a long time, and it's just practice. As with anything in life, if you want to get good at something, you've got to keep at it. So don't get disheartened if it doesn't look really good the first time. Just keep going. Worst case scenario, you just strip your miniatures, strip the paint off, and start again. It's not an issue, and just honestly just keep practicing and have fun with it. That's always been the point of any of these videos I do on the channel. If I can give up tips for people to use, great. And if it's things that people can use to learn and add new skills to the repertoire, brilliant. Or even people who just want to get into it for the first time, just have fun with it, because if it starts to become a chore, you're not going to enjoy it, and then you'll eventually just not bother painting. And that's him done. Just got to finish up the base on that image there, but you can see it's got a lot of detail, it pops, a lot of different colours. I've really enjoyed it. Is it my best paint job? Don't know, but that's not what's important to me. It's not a competition piece. This is for someone who wanted it, because they're a big fan of Howard the Duck. The only extras I've added here, which I'll mention, is I've put a nice matte varnish on the suit and a satin varnish on the beak and feet, just to make them pop a little bit more and just seem like they've got different variations in sort of texture and material. But yeah, really simple. I hope it's been easy to follow. I've had some comments from subscribers saying, go into a bit more depth of what you're doing, brush strokes and things, and techniques you're using for us to follow. So I'm hoping this is helping. I'm going to start doing more of this sort of stuff, like the actual theory behind and the reasonings behind I do certain things when I paint. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and all that good stuff, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.